It's such a joy to welcome Tony Award-winning, Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright, librettist, and screenwriter, Doug Wright.
It's great to be here. And you're feeding me. I can't believe it.
Always, always. It's the Haitian way to feed people great food. It's what we do inherently. So thank you for coming out to Queens. I know it was a trip, but I'm glad that you made it.
Glad to be here.
For everyone to know, learning so much from you when you served as president of the Dramatist Guild of America, it was life-changing for me as a playwright to understand. I mean, I knew about the guild, but I didn't understand the history of the guild. 100 years of service to writers, playwrights, just across the board is phenomenal. And to come to the guild as an employee and as a member under your leadership as president was extraordinary.
Well, you taught us lessons about politics and political resistance and engagement, and those are lessons that I think we are still carrying forward into the future as a guild, and so we'll always be grateful for that.
Oh, thank you. And I'm still part of the guild. You know, it doesn't go away. It's
no.
Even the guild is still there. The guild is its own spirit. It's its own thing, and it's life-changing. And you know, just learning from you and seeing how theater works on so many different levels, extraordinary. It's life-changing. There's no other way to say it. You are from Texas.
I am. I'm a recovering Texan.
Tell me, do you go back? Do you miss Texas?
I have a very complicated relationship with my home state, and there's something I love about the people. They're resilient, they're great raconteurs, they can tell a fiercely good story, and they have a wonderful ability to laugh at themselves just when you think they're about to drive you crazy. And that, I think, is redemptive. I am troubled by the politics there and the weaponization of religion. These are things that upset me a great deal and that I felt really acutely in my youth, to the point I never felt wholly comfortable or safe in that environment. All it took was graduating from high school to jettison out of the state. My siblings, my beloved nephew, my mom are all still there, and they're pretty progressive. At times even they feel like they're besieged on all sides by a hostile political culture. And I think that can take years off your life. So I don't go back except to visit them. I've learned 3 days is the maximum.
I don't hear a Texas accent. Do different parts of Texas have, because New York State, people don't realize this, there are different parts of accents that you would have in Queens or Brooklyn or even like Buffalo, and are there different accents in Texas?
Well, Jenna.
Which accent, which city, which part of Texas would that be? I don't know.
That's probably West Texas, I guess. I had family in West Texas, wonderful family, but they did talk a little like this.
Okay.
And I think for me, I just, my parents weren't native to Texas, so I think I escaped some of the harsher tones of the accent.
I get it.
Yeah.
That's why, because I've always wondered, it's like I never heard a Texas accent.
Right.
Your play, and I'll show everyone, because I love going back to plays. The Stonewater Rapture, it really does, I think, capture the spirit of Texas when it comes to church going, homophobia, you know, the sort of social exclusion of Miss Willoughby, and the horrific telling of the football gang rape of Carlisle. Can you tell me what, if anything, Is that real? Is that based on anything from your hometown?
Writing the play was a kind of exorcism, and I wrote it while I was in college. So it was the first time I'd gotten some strategic distance on Texas and had the objectivity to write about it in a truthful way. And thankfully, the horrific event that is the center of the play is not based in any incident that happened. I feel like it is, though, still a highly autobiographical work because I wrote it even before I came out of the closet, and the play was a kind of means of doing that, I think. And I had two remarkably close friends, one a young gay man who was out of the closet as a teenager, and that caused enormous blowback at the school because this was the late 70s, early 80s. And then I had this wonderful, ebullient, hysterically funny friend who was also staunchly religious.
Oh my goodness.
And I think their DNA is in the play along with mine.
There you go.
Yeah.
I see it because there's something that it feels like high school. But then the other thing, I was wondering if it was you, because you are tall. You are tall. I was like, were you playing football in high school? Because that's what the whole time I'm reading, I was like, is this based on Doug?
I so wasn't.
Okay, then fine. Because I know you're a tall guy.
Yeah,
I was like, I mean, I'm thinking like maybe in the 70s you were playing football because you could have been like Tom Brady. I don't know what the story was.
I think that was another weird curse, was I was a big guy, and so a lot of people assumed I must have some athleticism. And I could, like, trip over my shoelace. I mean, I was just completely clumsy and sort of out of sorts in my own body, so that was not me.
That's what I was wondering. I was just wondering if you were a football player in high school. When did you realize you were a writer?
My mother read to us every night before bed. And so she always stressed the importance of writing and writing as a means of confronting the world. So I started writing stories when I was still in elementary school.
Wow.
And I wrote my first full-length play when I was 11.
Oh my goodness.
And it was an English manor house horror play.
Did you really?
Yes. It was called The Devil's Playground, and everyone died in the end. So it was very dramatic.
I love this.
Yes. As someone who wanted to make theater and wanted to do it passionately, I think I also was strategic and thought to be an actor, you need a role.
Okay.
To direct a play, you needed a great play. To produce a play, you needed a venue. To design a play, you needed a script. But to write a play, all you had to do was sit down and start. So it was the one way of entering the field without waiting for permission or an invitation.
Wonderful.
I could forge my own way. So that's why I landed there, I think.
I love that.
I'm going to
Yes, have some. This is a Creole chicken pie, very similar to like a Haitian pâté.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like beef patties or meat pies, maybe in the UK, in the British system. But it's like a meat pie, but done with sort of Caribbean flavors and spices and such.
That's so good.
My mom is an extraordinary cook. This is me being a C student based on her recipe, but it passes. You get just to get the passing grade.
The moment I broke the crust, the delicious aroma that flooded right out of it, it was incredible.
Thank you. But it's my mom's recipe pretty much.
It's very good.
You quoted scripture in the Stonewater Rapture, and you said in I Am My Own Wife that you were gay from the Bible Belt. Did biblical stories, Bible stories, did they influence your writing?
I think they really did. My parents were both religious, but they were in an almost academic way. So
the Bible as literature.
Yes, and as a starting point for really kind of intellectual debate,
yes.
Not a sort of list of rules that had to be followed at any cost.
I understand.
They told the Bible stories when I was young. We went to Sunday school, we went to church on Sundays, but it was one of those 70s churches where everyone sat on beanbags and played the guitar. So I do feel a strong influence, and my own writing at its most strident sometimes has a kind of stark morality.
Does it?
And I think there is a part of me that feels certain moral impulses in the work. There are right ways to exist in the world and wrong ways to exist in the world. And sometimes I write in such a way that shows I have a kind of stark sense of right and wrong. And I think that probably comes from theology too.
Okay. That there are definitives on both sides.
Yeah, they're moral absolutes, I think.
Yes, for sure. Quills is a masterpiece.
Thank you.
There's no other way to describe it. it holds.
It's a wild one.
No, because it goes far back and it reaches so many topics. In it, you examine censorship, sex, theater, poverty, mental illness. What stays with me in such a powerful way, writers throughout history, they've been punished, imprisoned, killed for the things that they've written. And in Quills, you really do look at the Marquis de Sade in terms of how he needed to write. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that need to write, I think sometimes people don't understand that what makes me a writer is that I need to write. I've gotten in trouble so often for writing something. So when I saw the Marquis de Sade, I was like, because I've had family, why do you need to say that? Why do you have to write that? But you covered it flawlessly. Can you speak about that?
People like to posit theories about the toxic influence of certain kinds of art. What you see things like rap demonized, you see kind of horror movies demonized, you see heavy metal demonized. And I actually think we forget that more often than not, art is a really safe cage for the beast within us. And the great thing about someone like Sade, he was guilty of a garden variety of not very nice acts, which we could never condone, but the most outlandish crimes he committed were always on the page. And he saw writing as a vehicle to express his darkest thoughts and his sickest portrait of humanity and human behavior. He put it down in pen on parchment. And so, in a way, you could say that encyclopedically, he created the most comprehensive look we have at our own dark nature.
Our humanity, yeah.
Yeah, and our potential for destruction that we harbor within ourselves. And so, if you do have a compulsion to exercise your demons on the page, what's the cost if you're told you can't? And what does that do to you psychologically?
Yes.
And is the cost we pay for repressing provocative artists far greater than the cost we pay for allowing them to express themselves? And also just in Quills, the notion that the censor and the artist are always at odds, because I feel like sometimes there's no greater muse than a censor.
Yes.
If a censor says, you can't write that, you can't say that.
You want to write that
right,
more. Yes.
Right? In a heartbeat, right?
I know, it's like if someone says, you can't have black jelly beans, even though they hated black jelly beans, all of a sudden he's like, well, now I have to get black jelly beans. It's a thing. It's like something, most people don't like black licorice or black things, the anisette or something, they find it bitter. But if you said, you can't have black licorice or something.
We all suddenly taste it and need it.
And it's like we start water, our mouths start water. It's so true.
Like at the time I was writing it, there was a big debate in the NEA about the provocative work of the homoerotic photographer Robert Mapplethorpe.
Yes.
And the senator from North Carolina, Jesse Helms, was trying to silence him.
I remember Jesse Helms.
Yeah, right? And everyone said, these guys are enemies, they're at each other's throats. And I was like, well, look at it. Every time Jesse Helms brings up Mapplethorpe,
yes,
Jesse Helms gets reelected. And every time Mapplethorpe gets attacked, he gets a new coffee table book at Barnes & Noble. And I'm like, these guys have a good thing going. This is symbiotic, you know?
Never thought of it like that.
And that's what I wanted to illustrate in Quills, that sometimes these seeming adversaries are actually in sync in a way. So we become a culture of extremity, yelling no, 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 or yes, yes, yes. And the person who loses out is the poor priest in the story who represents most of us, who's a kind of temperate point of view.
For sure.
That's the way we cede the platform to extremists, and we're the ones who lose. So those were the themes that interested me with that crazy piece.
But I really, really loved it because it's not the issue. For me, it's not the issue per se, because you could be writing about anything, but it's the fact that you need to get it out. That I think that is what makes the writer, in my head at least.
Yeah, it's almost a compulsion.
Yes, like you're like, oh, I have to. Have you ever felt punished for something that you wrote?
I love that question. A couple times. In early childhood, it wasn't something I wrote, but something I painted. And it was in elementary school. I was about 9 or 10, and it was parents' night coming up. So the teacher gave us all butcher paper and paintbrushes and said, I'm going to read you a story, and you all just free paint for a while, and we'll have gorgeous pictures to put up for your parents. So I thought that was great. And I remembered this image of the goddess Medusa that I'd seen in an art book that my parents owned. And so I painted Medusa's head lying on a stone cold floor while the snakes crawled out of her scalp. I was really delighted with it. I thought it was quite a work. And I took it up to the teacher and she looked at it and she said, "Douglas, this is a very good painting, but we're not putting it on the wall for Parents' Night." And that's the first time I ever felt censored and thought, wow, maybe provocative art isn't always welcome.
Oh my goodness.
But then later, in a more serious way, I was very excited when my first full-length play was accepted at the National Playwrights Conference at the Eugene O'Neill Center. And it was a play about the artist Marcel Duchamp and his seminal painting, Nude Descending the Staircase. And in the play, since that's a fragmented nude going down a series of steps, there is a murder and a body is found, pieces of a body along a tenement staircase. And that's the metaphor for the creation of the painting. At the conference, there was a whole contingent of fellow playwrights who were deeply offended by it and thought it was unnecessarily violent and graphic, and that the metaphor was potently ugly. So they went together to the artistic director of the conference, Lloyd Richards, and said, "We don't feel safe with this playwright on campus, and we don't feel like this play should be included." And I was so devastated because as a writer,
Heartbroken.
Heartbroken.
That would make me cry.
I did.
That would make
I
me
was
cry.
completely mortified. And it was the first time I felt that warring instinct between the Doug who just really wants to be liked and the writer who wants to be deliberately provocative. But I didn't want the play to cause active emotional hurt in people who were experiencing it. I wanted them to have sort of intellectual flights of fancy. So I went to Lloyd Richards in a stew, and he's really one of the most brilliant mentors I ever had, because he said, "You need to take responsibility for the fact that your intentions in this play are unclear, so it's susceptible to certain misreadings." And he said, "I think that's what's happened. They are holding you to account for things you actually didn't mean, but that the text is not sufficiently clear about."
Wow.
So he said, "You need to go back and redraft and make your intentions more obvious so that the play is no longer susceptible to misinterpretation." I'll always be grateful to him because he had an air of measured calm. He wasn't emotional himself. He just taught me a valuable lesson about my craft.
Wow.
And I went away and I redrafted the play with that very much in mind, and it was the hit of the conference.
Bravo.
But those days afterwards when people wanted to boycott the play and have me removed from the conference, I mean, I was a wreck.
Wow. It made you better.
Yeah, you grow up, right?
I have to tell you, I mean, I write about Haitian zombies, so I think I know horror a little bit. But Woodward Park.
Wildwood Park.
It had me scared without realizing it.
Really?
Because I was like, oh, this is cool. This is okay. They're doing this. And then I was like, whoa. I was like, I was scared before I even realized it. Because that doesn't happen often. Usually, maybe I'm just being arrogant, but usually when I'm reading a text or reading something, I'm like, I know what's gonna happen. You can usually predict. You get a sense of what's, no. This caught me off guard. It's a private and affluent community where Miss Havlin, she actually criticizes Stephen King, the writer's world, as being far removed. I mean, I won't give away the story, but can you tell me how you put that together and how you had me scared so quickly before I even realized it?
Well, it's a little piece where a real estate agent is giving a tour to a prospective buyer of what they call a damaged property, a property where a crime has occurred. It was commissioned by the McCarter Theater in New Jersey. They wanted short one-acts on the theme of home.
Okay.
So I had recently been to a wedding in Princeton, New Jersey as a +1.
Okay.
And it was in this beautiful home. And I was talking to the wedding photographer and he said, yeah, this home, it's rented out for public events now and weddings, but it has kind of an interesting history. Before they moved to Hollywood, this is where the Menendez family lived.
The Menendez brothers?
The Menendez brothers.
Oh my goodness.
Who would later move to California, and of course we all know what happened there.
Wow.
But I was so
Oh
chilled
my goodness.
by that. And I thought, and now it's the site for a wedding. But so I was inspired to write the play. And the reason I think it's frightening, or I hope, is it's supposed to take place on a completely bare stage.
Okay.
everything, as you learn, as you go through the house with the real estate agent and she describes the rooms and the buyer asks questions, you start to piece together what happened there on your own.
Yes.
But there are no visual cues. And so demands that the reader, as
Pay
you
attention.
were, or the audience, and also reconstruct the crime for themselves.
Yeah.
So I would argue, I wasn't scaring you, you were scaring yourself.
Was I?
Because it asks you to provide all the detail that it doesn't.
Yes.
And so you realize you become both a listener but also a voyeur in terms of what happened. And it forces you to use your own imaginative abilities to conjure the crime. And that ends up teaching you a little bit about the darkness within.
I never really considered you writing about horror, but if you're saying you wrote about creative art about Medusa, you had everything. I didn't realize it, but yeah, you're writing from a different point of view.
Yeah.
There's that part of like the hidden part.
Yeah.
The part that really is just like, oh, it catches you off guard. If you're not paying attention, it's like, whoa, what happened? I'm being sincere.
No, but there's real darkness. There's real darkness, yeah. Even in the lighter plays, I think.
What Bonoland? It explores differences. Right now, year 2025, United States, diversity, equity, and inclusion are being fiercely attacked by governmental officials. Can you tell me, what should we be learning? What should we be doing? What should we be thinking about right now?
Well, it's particularly a shame that this crushing of all these DEI initiatives is coming after we just made so much progress in that arena. And it's interesting you should bring up that play in light of DEI, because I was younger when I wrote it. I was still in my late 20s, and I wanted to be really deliberately provocative, and as provocative as I could be. And it's a play in many ways about starvation, literal starvation, emotional starvation.
Yeah, they're cutting food stamps. They're cutting Medicare. It's like literal resources.
Yeah, but in all candor, as an older person looking back on that play, there are times when I use a kind of mythical African world to comment on the lives of my affluent white couple. And I felt, in retrospect, partly because of the great DEI work and coming from Texas, my God, do I have blinders? And my God, do I trip over my own presumptions? And how none of us are exempt from the lessons we have to learn in that arena. And I suddenly felt, as an older person, it wasn't my place to take that iconography and that culture and use it as a metaphor for my own. And I understand the young provocateur that wanted to be shocking, that wanted to provoke, but in a way it was that old Lloyd Richards question. Am I provoking in the right way? Am I making people ask the necessary questions about hunger and resources and starvation and all the themes you're citing in that play? Or am I stunting that inquiry because I'm being irresponsible about a culture that isn't mine? So I've actually asked Dramatist Play Service to cease circulating that particular play. Yeah, because I just felt, I mean, there's a lot that I love about
What year did it come out?
That was in the early 90s, probably.
A Clinton presidency then?
Yeah,
okay.
92, 93 maybe. And as an older, I mean, hopefully we all grow and change, and our perception of the world and our role as a writer in it changes. And it was a youthful work, and I feel like if I were asked to truly defend it today against potential offense, I'm not sure I'd be comfortable doing that.
Oh my goodness.
I think I have to say of that play, it was one to learn on, not necessarily one that needs to continue to be in the public sphere. In a way, had I not gone through a lot of the rigorous DEI work that the theater community has put itself through, I don't know if I would have come to that conclusion, but I feel like now we're armed with all this extraordinary knowledge about what our responsibilities really are. And the way to write about cultures outside ourselves, and the responsibility that carries, and the inherent pitfalls in doing it. And so just when we've learned all these remarkable lessons, they want to take it off the table, which is insane to me.
It's true, because you know what it is? With the age of the internet, people wherever they are on the planet are writing back in real time.
Yeah.
People can call you and text you and email you. They can just find your information.
Yeah, it's
so I think it's different. I think it's a different time today. It is truly heartbreaking that Nazi ideology is so present and so visual. When I think of your absolute masterpiece, I Am My Own Wife, and when I think of Charlotte van Malshoff, did I pronounce it correctly?
Beautifully. Your German is very good.
My German is my weakest out of my languages, but I try. I want to practice more. But when I think of just what I see now in the year 2025, I do think about her. So it means that if she were still alive today, she would have to still see the Nazi ideology, Nazi propaganda, and that she still would technically not be safe to exist in her being. Can you talk to me about what comes to mind, what thoughts you have, and how is it connected?
No, it's a great question, and the rise of the far right in Germany has been as alarming as the rise of it in our country. And Germany in particular, I think, has done a really commendable job of commemorating its past. The Holocaust monument in the heart of Berlin, the museums that acknowledge the horror. I often think if we acknowledged slavery, if we had more museums devoted to it, more monuments built to it, and more public commemoration of our own Holocaust, I wonder if we wouldn't be further along in resolving the pain that still exists in terms of our great transgression. And the Germans have been great about it. And so to see that ideology still thrive when they've been so deliberate in their efforts to tamp it down is so disheartening. And I think there's every possibility Charlotta would be less safe in Germany today.
Because she's from the East.
She's from the East.
She's from the former East Germany.
Yeah.
Because the other part that I think about is what was West Germany, they did the work.
Yeah.
What was East Germany, they did not do the work.
Yeah.
And today the majority of people who are voting AfD are from the East, what was formerly Eastern Germany. I mean, I love the fact that you are a character so you, the young writer, physically in East Germany yourself. I love that part. My family and I, we've driven across Germany and everything. I just love the whole thing.
Wow.
Talk to me about the head of the AfD, openly lesbian, head of the AfD. She lost her candidacy to become the next chancellor. Can you tell me, what did you see? What did you notice? And just what are your thoughts about is that she is openly gay?
Yeah.
Nazi ideology rejects homosexuality.
Yeah, completely, emphatically.
Rejects. It goes traditional father, mother, child, and it rejects homosexuality. And I just don't understand how someone can be openly gay and then openly pro-AF. I don't understand it. And maybe I just think it's because I've never been to the eastern part. What did you see? What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear it.
As incredulous as you are that a lesbian woman could align herself with that party. So I don't know that I have any answers there. And also, I feel a little bit like now I'm vamping an answer to someone across the table who's actually a real expert in political movements and how they happen and why. So I feel a little chagrined, but I'll try. I'll take a stab at it.
Sometimes politics are what you see in person.
Yeah.
It's not just what you can read in books, because everything I know about East Germany is from books. But you were in person on the ground. I'd love to hear what you saw in person.
Well, and I think it might be analogous to the rise of MAGA in our country. I trace a lot of it, rightly or wrongly, back to income inequality. And East Germans who suddenly were forced to reunify had far fewer economic resources than their West Berlin counterparts and felt completely inferior, and also felt like they were being characterized by the West as rubes and as okies and as
really?
quote unquote what in our sort of vulgar parlance white trash, you know? And so the resentment against the ruling class grew to an enormous degree. And I think that's kind of what's happened in our country. And it's when you have a situation of have and have not, that's when people revert to their most toxic and start to point fingers and assign blame. And that's when I think you see a rise in homophobia and xenophobia and racism and all of those things. I mean, I do think there are core, regrettable, dangerous aspects of our nature that are inseparable from political or economic wins. Sometimes there's just a bad germ in us. So I don't mean to suggest that economic disparity has to happen to ignite those phenomenon, but I think it exacerbates them to an extraordinary degree. And I think that was East Germany's reaction. And it's not that different from the red state, blue state conflict in our country.
I do think about her and how she survived through Nazi Germany, and like it's still here. And I'm like, to me, it's mind-blowing. It's absolutely mind-blowing. So I do go back every other day. I'm reading German newspapers. So like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
Because I just don't, I mean, I do think about I Am My Own Wife, because I do think about her as a reference, because what they're attacking, it's her.
And that play, actually, it's interesting to me, because this situation, I think, is a really fascinating one. There's been a real interest in reviving the play.
In Germany or here?
Internationally, actually, but specifically there's an interest in bringing it back to Broadway as a kind of necessary voice in a culture that has decided to so demonize the trans community. It's challenging because since the time I wrote it, which was 20 years ago, the trans community has become much more visible and much more vocal about making its own needs known, and its nomenclature and its demand for rights, all of that. And along with that, that community who has wonderfully adopted the play really believes that for the play to be performed, it should be performed by a non-binary or trans person. And there have been some instances where the play has been shut down by protests when that doesn't happen.
Really? Where were the protests? I did not know this. Where was this? Was it in New York?
It's happened in New York. It's happened out in the heart of the country. It's even happened in far-flung places like Romania, where trans activists stormed the stage and stopped a performance.
I did not know this at all.
Which is fascinating to me. So we look at mounting it now in 2025 on Broadway. What's required for a Broadway success? A star.
Yes.
Do we have a trans star with a seismic talent to play 35 characters
with so many accents?
With so many accents.
The accents are the trickiest part.
Absolutely.
Because I'm so critical of bad accents on stage, I won't even front. But that's the hard thing.
We have this notion in the theater right now of the necessity of lived experience, and I think that offers incalculable dividends when an actor can bring lived experience to the role they're playing. But we also have something called craft. And to cast I Am My Own Wife now, we really need both operating at a peak level.
For sure.
And so in the culture right now, we do not have an above the title trans star with that level of craft that we can advocate for, who has instant name recognition across the country. I'm sure those talented people exist.
But you mean like the Brad Pitts, the George Clooney's, the Julia Roberts.
Bold-faced name.
That people know. I always say this to people, I was like, you're not really famous unless my Haitian mother knows who you are. Because she's not reading Variety, she's not reading all these papers. If she doesn't know who a person is, they're not famous. So if you say to my mother, Julia Roberts, or you say to her Brad Pitt, yes, I know who that is. But if it's another name, they can be absolutely brilliant, but she's not following Broadway briefing.
Well, see, that's what, and we need someone with lived experience, monumental craft, and who your mother recognizes.
Yes, that working class people and just people all over the country, when you say the name, they know it by heart. I get it.
And I feel like hopefully we'll get there and get there soon, and in 5 to 10 years, we'll have plenty of trans people that could have their names above the title, but it hasn't happened yet. And so Charlotta's story is untold at the moment, at a moment in the culture when it really needs to be.
I agree.
So, and I don't know how to solve that problem, because the last thing I want to do...
Because it's a one-person play. It's not even just about, you can bring sort of supporting and then they could round it out. But
and I don't want to cast it in a way that alienates the very community it's meant to celebrate. That seems self-defeating. So I have a pin in that play right now, and no concrete moral sense of what to do about it.
Wow.
So
that must be so hard.
It is.
I did not know that.
Isn't that wild?
I didn't know it had been protested. I didn't know. I
Yeah.
genuinely didn't know.
And I get it. I mean, I totally get it. Yes. And also, I wrote it 20 years ago as an ally, and we've entered a stage now where happily it's up to trans people to tell their own stories.
For sure.
And being an ally might not be enough now. But at the time it was, and I think it was welcome because it was one of the first. But now they're telling their own stories, and maybe that's what we need to make space for, rather than, a revival of mine.
But I think the other part that makes it so touching is that she was older when you wrote it. You were a young man when you wrote it on her behalf.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't a writer herself. So to help write her story, she wasn't going to pen it.
Yeah.
And she did need the help. And the fact that you were doing the research and I think that's part of it. Because she wasn't a writer. So I think for her story, you were the perfect candidate.
And it was one of the most thrilling chapters of my life with how...
In Unwrap Your Candy, so we have that here, Unwrap Your Candy, and in Goodnight Oscar, they both start with the announcer or an announcer reminding the audience to silence their phone, turn off their pagers, to really come into the room. I thought it was a very subtle and elegant breaking of the third wall. Because yes, if you're in the theater, you do hear that, but you had it on the stage. So it wasn't the person from the theater, it was someone on the stage in it. It was beautiful. It felt like you were in it in a different way. But today, honestly, so many people are addicted to their phones in ways, and they never disconnect. So as a writer, when people are, enjoying your work and they're coming into your work and they're really not turning off their phones, do you feel that you have the same capacity as a writer for them to hear your voice?
Playwriting is such a complicated act because on the one hand, usually if you're writing about something you care about, you're carving out a piece of your heart and holding it up to 500 people in the dark to say, do you recognize this? Do you feel this way? Am I crazy or do you get it?
Yes.
And you're praying they say they get it. So you're at your absolutely most vulnerable. Conversely, you're also saying, I have something to say, so be quiet for the next 2 hours and pay $300 a ticket and sit there and listen to me. So it's both the most monstrously egocentric act in the world and the most vulnerable. So when I'm in the theater, particularly one of my own shows, and somebody sneaks a peek at a text or leaves the phone on so it's casting that sort of venomous blue glow from someone's seat, I just get apoplectic.
Really?
And I like to think when people are out in the world staring at their phones, maybe they're reading Tolstoy and, Kindle, or maybe they're reading one of my plays. And of course they're not. They're reading sound bites and they're reading 3 sentences that are meant to convey volumes. And I do think that I don't want to sound like the older generation, but I do worry that it reduces thought and reduces nuance and reduces ambiguity.
I agree.
When things get reduced to single sentences.
Exactly.
And that's not good. And it is worrisome. And it does make you wonder, what is that going to do when it's the core of your profession to ask people to give their undivided attention for a period of 2.5 hours and engage completely. My husband and I were watching The Brutalist last night, and I noticed, he's just 5 years my junior, but he was checking his phone too, and he was totally multitasking. And I saw him looking at his phone and then watching the movie, and then looking at his phone and then watching the movie. And yet I could ask him afterwards about specific lines or moments in the movie, thinking, he probably didn't get that, he was on his phone. And he shot them right back at me. And I was like, well, maybe brains are being trained in different ways now that I don't fully understand or accept.
Like we're juggling and then we're writing our names at the same time or something.
Yeah, so I don't want to assume that we can't learn to read and engage and pay attention in new and increasingly layered ways. But I know that for me, it's one reason the country has become so shrill and so divided, is that complex ideas are reduced to memes.
It's very true.
Yeah.
Like people don't sit and read cover to cover on things.
No.
They really don't.
No.
Because I mean, it's different, I think, for me, like I was telling you before, law school requires, just to pass. This is not even exceptionalism. This is just to pass. You're reading 1,200, 1,500 pages a week. That's just to keep up.
Yeah.
I remember in high school when we had, even if you didn't read or do your homework the day before, you would never speak
Totally.
on a book.
You just didn't want to be seen.
Yes, you just sort of sat back and then you just say, but I find it just shocking when people are speaking on issues that they clearly did not do their basic homework on. And I'm just and I think it is, people are on their phones and they're doing little snips, little snaps, and they think that's it, but I'm like, that's not it.
Yeah.
It's I think it's sort of like when people think potato chips is real food, they're like, I have potato chips, I'm all right. And it's the same thing. So I do appreciate the fact that you, from Unwrap Your Candy, this was, what is it, 25 years ago?
Yeah, probably so.
But this was even before internet really took over.
Yeah.
So that the fact that you were able to see it, and I think it just speaks that you were already there. And then, Good Night came out. Was it was 2024?
23, 24.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it was in Chicago first.
Yeah.
And then
we're just about to go to London. I'm so excited. Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Who's starring it for London?
Sean Hayes is going to return and do it
wonderful.
again. Yeah, so
wonderful.
We're really excited.
In Good Night, Oscar, it really is a look at the culture of performing arts from different angles. And while the performing arts are certainly glamorous, you really do raise some serious, serious questions about being in this space that is so visible. Can you share, for you as an accomplished writer, what are the things that you've done that have allowed you to sort of protect your own introspective harmony and just creating, but then still living as a real person?
Such a great question, and it cuts close to the bone because I don't think I always do that well. And I love that your question assumes that I do. I would say my spouse is really important in that, because for so long, and I think this is common among artists, I valued myself by the work that I did.
Okay.
And if the work was well regarded and well received, then I was a good person.
Okay.
And if it wasn't, then I was not worthwhile. And I think I felt that to an extraordinary and aching degree.
Wow.
And I remember when I heard that there was this nice guy who wanted to have a drink.
Okay.
My first thought was, how can that be? He hasn't read my work. Which is so insane. And the notion that David could like me because, he thought I had funny knees, or I said things that made him smile, or, that there were intangible things in my nature that he might find worthwhile, with or without, a 2-act play attached, was monumental to me.
Wonderful.
And really shook me up in all kinds of great ways. It's still something I struggle with, of finding my self-worth in what I make. And I think it's the perilous journey of a lot of artists. And when that identification is too strong, I think that's when you see self-destruction in our community.
Really?
I do. I really do. And it's something I'm still struggling and learning to do every day, is not equate my value with the value assigned to my work. So that's a constant struggle.
And for Oscar, just in particular with that play, Oscar was an irascible, difficult, highly troubled individual who was also a kind of mad genius.
Yes.
We're also going through a period of adjustment in the culture when we're asking, do we correlate an author with their work? An author has done bad things in the world, things that we do not approve of, and created work that we admire or that's found a place in the canon. Can we still admire and respect the work when we know the individual who created it is deeply, deeply flawed?
True.
And I know this is a hot button issue.
It is.
And what I feel is that sometimes it's the flaws, it's the demons, it's the aberrations, it's the troubles in the individual that granted them the insight to make the challenging art. And so some things that serve us in art can undermine us in life.
In real life.
In real life. And you see that happen. You see the same genius a certain artist possessed completely ruin their life off
Yes.
screen or off stage or off the canvas or off the pages of the book. But like I think it is possible to roundly condemn the actions of a Roman Polanski and to make clear that they are not tenable in a civilized and advanced culture, and that Rosemary's Baby and The Tenant are great movies.
In and of themselves.
In and of themselves.
Yes.
And that we don't have to equate artist with the work, and we don't have to be censorious as a result. It doesn't mean we shouldn't be candid about the failings of some artists.
I feel the same way about Bill Cosby.
Yes.
Because
yes.
I would not be who I am today without The Cosby Show, or the follow-up, Different World.
Different World, yeah.
And when I think about, because it's heartbreaking. Whenever I see it, I literally feel it as if he was related to me. I really do feel it. It doesn't air the same, because the reruns of The Cosby Show and Different World, they used to be on all the time on the major TV stations. They go, I don't know where they are now.
Wow.
But they don't run as they used to.
Yeah.
And it's like the show was brilliant. It's not the same. It's hard to enjoy the same way. So when Different World came out, I was like 8 or 9 years old. So in my head at 8 or 9 years, I was like, well, I got to go away for university. I've got to go away. And I had this whole but it came from that show, and it came from Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
Because that was his college experience, and then his daughter's college experience that he shared on a international level. But it's right. It's I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
Well, and that's a contradiction and a vexation that doesn't fit into one line on Facebook. And it's like, what you can do is you can hold places in your mind for, this was one of the most outrageously positive experiences on my youth and gave me the vision for the kind of life I knew I wanted to lead. And it was created by a deeply flawed man who did untenable and unsuitable things in our culture.
For sure.
And you can live with those two things.
Both can still exist.
Yeah, they can both be true. And I hope that we reach that place, because again, it's, the people who make art are usually flawed people. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast, right?
True, yes. Something started it to begin with. It came from somewhere. It came from somewhere. I'm so happy that you came today. It's always an honor to speak with you. I always learn new things. I always feel better. They always say that if you want to know if someone's a good person, how do you feel after you sit with them? How do you feel after you had a conversation with them? I always feel better when I speak with you. So thank you.
Well, this isn't
generous.
just because of the delicious chicken pie. I still look forward to this experience because I do think you're one of the most visionary and original political thinkers that I've encountered.
Oh, thank you,
and I feel the same way.
Thank you, Doug.
Yeah.
So happy to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you.